Well, this is pretty hysterical. You cannot make this up. So earlier this week, we saw, as we covered on the channel, Chicago Mayor Brandon Johnson and the Trump administration get in a very public feud over Trump's threat to expand the DC federal takeover, which is to essentially say to places like Chicago, hey, the evil, fascist, racist president might come in here and actually make your city a better place. I know, how dare he do that? How dare he make these streets safer? How dare he make the urban spaces free of criminals terrorizing innocent civilians? You basically get the picture. We saw a big, gigantic press conference from Brandon Johnson and JB Pritzker screaming at Trump, telling him he was such a horrible person for wanting to make America great again, quite literally. But very interestingly, and perhaps coincidentally, but I don't think so, this week we saw a very different response from LA Mayor Karen Bass, who actually, instead of coming out and saying, Trump, no, don't you do this, you're so bad, instead chose to have a big, gigantic press conference supporting law and order, and actually saying that Los Angeles is going to start being tough on the criminals. We're not actually this insane place that allows looting and mass violence, which is very strange, right? It's completely out of character for these people. And as much as I would like to say and believe that they've all had a change of heart, the Democrats have decided to stop being crazy, we all know that's not what this is. No, Karen Bass is scared. That is the answer. She is intimidated. She is perhaps traumatized by the last time and does not want the Trump administration to be federalizing her city. But arguably, she's taking the smarter route here. She's trying not to incite it, right? She's trying not to push the buttons of Trump. And while all of the blame here, the Chicago Democrats took the bait, you actually are seeing the 6D chess move here, where Trump is not just baiting some Democrats to be massively unpopular by defending crime and pro-crime positions, but simultaneously, the very small handful of, I guess, slightly smarter, like you have the IQ of a rock. I don't know, maybe these people have the IQ of a snail or a salamander or something, right? These Democrats are saying, oh, we don't want Trump to federalize, so let's actually crack down on crime. So either direction they go, either Democrats embrace policy positions in the midterms that are widely unpopular, or they actually crack down on crime in their own cities, which I also find to be an acceptable response as well, right? Either answer is, I guess in the end, a benefit for us. And it's worth noting, Karen Bass here was not the only one who clearly seems intimidated, right? Trying to ward off any threat of Trump taking over their cities or states, because we saw a similar sentiment from New York Governor Kathy Hochul, who, big surprise here, is now campaigning against New York's no cash bail policy and calling out, you will not believe this, woke judges in her eyes for being too soft on the criminals. What a 180. This is astonishing to witness. So we'll tell you all about this in today's video and perhaps the reasons this may be, okay? Because again, I'm doubling down on this theory. They are very scared that Trump might come in and federalize, while the proud and arrogant Illinois Democrats think we're going to fight. These people are saying, no, this is not a fight you want to get into, right? Because after all, if they actually federalize and the place becomes better, maybe people in blue states would actually realize how terrible our governance is. So we'll tell you all about it. Again, this exchange here between Hochul, Bass, and some Democrats standing down against Trump. First, though, do us a favor. If you enjoy our content, make sure you hit that like button down below and subscribe to the channel if you are new. Subscribing is not only the best way to support our videos, but it also ensures that you can stay up to date with all of the latest news and coverage. And with that said, as I've been reiterating time and time again, this position of defending crime or downplaying it, claiming the 30-year lows, all this garbage, is not a convincing position for the American people in terms of the Democrats campaigning there. It is idiotic. It is out of touch with both reality and a basic human nature. But maybe in today's video, you're witnessing Democrats getting a little smarter, you would think. Well, I first of all want to point out, no, that is not the case. Because while maybe Karen Bass and some others are, deciding it's not a good idea to campaign on this type of stuff, there has been absolutely no national Democrat memo telling the Democrats to stop, embracing radical, stupid, idiotic BLM ideas on this issue. Because I like to note that just yesterday we had Representative Jamie Raskin, one of the top individuals in Democrat congressional leadership, on CNN. And the argument that he's making, much like Brandon Johnson, a lot of these radicals who are just so pissed off at any enforcement against crime, makes the argument here that, Trump's response to crime is not necessary because, and I quote, he actually said this, crime has always been a part of our history. So I guess that means nothing should be done about it. He actually said this. Take a listen.
And the military is not supposed to be used for ordinary law enforcement purposes. In D.C., he was talking about cleaning up the graffiti and, dealing with the blight of homelessness, which are obviously local, not federal issues. And he's trying to militarize our society, intimidate his political opponents. The whole idea of picking cities based on their partisan leadership is absurd. I mean, there are lots of Republican cities and towns struggling with crime. Everybody is across the country. Always. Crime has always been part of our history. And yet crime is down. In D.C., for example, it's at a 30-year low. It's down in Baltimore. It's down in Chicago. But the point is that in our system of federalism, the different branches of government and the different departments of government are supposed to work together. If Donald Trump thinks he's got some great ideas for Chicago or Miami or Houston, Texas or whatever, he should call a summit for the White House and say, hey, here's some ideas where the feds can work together with states and localities, not have a series of rolling National Guard invasions of people's cities.
Well, first of all, Jamie Raskin, you absolute genius. That's what he's trying to do. That is literally what he's trying to do. The issue, as you saw in California back in June, is that your political party is intent. You believe it's a good thing, somehow an end goal of yours, to allow your cities to burn, to turn a blind eye and allow and abet and even perhaps support crime. So explain to me how federal collaboration can be possible when you are actively denying federal collaboration under the guise of Trump derangement syndrome, right? Of ideology. That's number one. But secondly, I love that line. Okay. So guys, crime is not an issue. Remember, it's at 30-year lows. Everyone totally believes this, right? And the excuse is what? Crime has always been a part of our history. Therefore, we shouldn't really do anything serious about it. I'm going to remember that line, actually. So the next time a leftist says that, oh, America's racist, systemic garbage, all this stuff, I'm just going to say that, right? Hey, liberal, racism has always been a part of our history, so I don't see the problem. I mean, what kind of statement is this? It's always existed, yes, so we should do nothing about it, right? Even in the reaction to, some of the news we saw today, obviously a big tragedy. But should I respond to all the gun control advocates by saying that, well, guns and the Second Amendment have always been part of our history, so, you can't do anything to touch it then. Any idea of changing or reforming or presenting new ideas? No, it's always been part of our history. Don't you know? Don't you know? So anyways, there you have it. Just again, proving the point here, Democrats whole scale are not really changing. But I think in the rare case of Karen Bass, there is a very fundamental factor driving all of this. And it's the fact that, as she kind of admitted this week, guys, she's traumatized. Okay, she's traumatized by the fact that when you really think about it, the first federal takeover did take place in Los Angeles in the wake of the riots we saw. Of course, the ICE raids have been a huge thorn in her side politically. And I think in this case, you're kind of seeing the reason why maybe she is scared of reinciting the same PTSD that the city experienced just recently. And you'll see the evidence of that in a second. But first, here's Karen Bass.
They did was they seized, it was a federal seizure of power from the governor. They seized the National Guard and federalized them. And I use that language because I think it's very important for people to understand. The governor is in charge of the National Guard. If we needed the National Guard for any reason, we would have asked the governor. And he certainly, I don't know the history beyond my time as mayor, but I can't imagine him turning us down if it was what we needed. But we did not need that. So I felt as though it was a stunt. And I said Los Angeles was a petri dish, basically giving a warning to cities all over the country. And the Monday after the first raids, I was on a Zoom call with over 100 mayors. So people around the country were very worried. You chose to do that to this city, to the nation's second largest city. Why?
Yeah, well, like I said, scared and traumatized from what happened last time. Which probably explains why, this week, Karen Bass did something very unique, okay? She does this huge press conference with, as you can see, a bunch of LAPD talking about how tough she is on crime, actually, and explaining that crime and criminals will no longer be tolerated in the city of Los Angeles. And again, we're supposed to believe that of all of the random arrests in LA, probably every week you could pick, they choose this one in particular this week to suddenly make the tough on crime speech. We know what's driving this. Again, she's traumatized. She doesn't want it to happen again. Check out the tone change and sea change suddenly out of Los Angeles Democrat leadership. It's hysterical.
This is the press conference from earlier this morning happening here at LAPD headquarters. You can see there Mayor Karen Bass spearheading this press conference, joined by LAPD Chief Jim McDonnell, ultimately connecting all the dots, which led to the arrest of these suspects. 93 burglaries dating back to 2022, all tied to this same crew.
We know that there's a lot more to keep every Angelino safe, but let me be clear, we will not stop doing whatever we need to do to combat crime. When we hear about break-ins in Encino or Sherman Oaks, or a burglarized break-in of a business in South LA, we do not rest until we find those who are responsible.
And you can see the caption she posted on X here saying, if you commit a crime in Los Angeles, you will be held accountable. Really? Is that now the stance of the city of Los Angeles? Because for the past several years, no, actually, if you commit a crime in Los Angeles, you are not held accountable. As was noted here, the very burglary crew who apparently broke into almost 100 homes over the span of several years has been running amok in the city since 2020. But suddenly, only now in 2025 did you finally catch these guys and actually do something about it. And coincidentally, this all happens, guys. Now they're saying we're going to hold them accountable. All happens on the same week where Trump is threatening a federal takeover of Los Angeles. We know what is going on there. And guys, here's the thing, right? I largely believe that these Democrats are probably being insincere. Okay, they're just kind of posturing because some of them with half a brain, maybe a quarter of a brain, understand that, yes, law and order is a winning issue. It's not smart for Democrats to kind of take a stance against all that stuff. But frankly, so that's why I say I think they're disingenuous and they're not really going to do a whole lot to crack down on crime. However, if they prove me wrong there, then that's also fine. Okay, I'm an American patriot first and foremost. I would prefer that I can go on a vacation in our major and famous cities. I would prefer the icons of our civilization, generally speaking, to just not be third world cesspools. This is something I will celebrate if it is sincere. Who knows if it's sincere? But frankly, that's the 5D chess. Because whether in Chicago, right, they're going to have this big back and forth and maybe Trump federalizes. But if the threat of Trump federalizing can actually push certain Democrat mayors out of the fear and PTSD of what might happen to actually clean up the cities for themselves, which they really do have the capability of doing, it's just an issue of will, like they refuse to, right? Then that's fine. Okay, I'm here for that, right? I have no issue with this whatsoever. So there you go. And as I brought up in the intro, you heard similar sentiments from New York Governor Kathy Hochul. After the years of chaos on the subways and all this stuff, what is she now saying? She's talking about how she's reversing course on no cash bail policy and is going so far as to demand the judges, the woke judges, they're a threat to our country, okay? These activist judges, right? She's actually attacking the Democrat judges, claiming that they need to stop releasing dangerous criminals from jail back onto the streets. I mean, again, Kathy, I don't know if you're really going to do anything to try to stop it, if you're going to change the law, but if this sentiment is genuine, then indeed I agree. And she's saying this absolutely under duress from Trump. But hey, I guess the strategy is working. We're making Democrats clean up their own places, it would seem. Take a listen.
Offender 1,000 times, and you were still not going to be held on bail. That's what I had to change. And so those changes are bearing out. That's why we're showing a decline in all crimes, especially retail theft. So he can misstate the facts, say what he wants to say, but he's wrong. He's wrong. And also, many of the cases he gave examples to, he gave this whole memo of all these examples. Many of the cases were bail eligible, but guess what? The judge decided to do something differently than what the prosecutors had asked for rightfully under the law. So I think the question I have is, come on, judges, you're doing your part here. I need the judges to step up. And I've been surprised at the number of judges who don't seem to know the law has changed. When I read commentary from them on why they did not hold someone on bail who common sense would have said should have been held, but also our laws say should have been held. And so I think there's also a lot of questions that I've had for a long time.
Yeah, so this is hilarious, not just because Kathy Hochul is now taking a stand for law and order, but she's actually now uttering the very same right-wing sentiments that we have been saying for years and have been derided as conspiracy theorists for suggesting, which is first and foremost, in New York and many blue states, there is an issue with letting criminals out of jail, right? No bail. We just, release them back onto the streets. This issue of allowing repeat offenders to keep on walking, right? They said that's not happening. Stop making this up. Stop spreading misinformation. Don't you know crime is at 30-year lows? And Kathy Hochul is now saying the same thing. Oh, newsflash. Yeah, it is a big problem. Theft especially. It is happening indeed. Number one. Number two. Suddenly, the MAGA patriot herself, Kathy Hochul here, is further admitting that we have a massive problem in this country with judges. Judges who, yes, are too soft on the actual criminals. They are George Soros progressive manipulated. They're allowing these criminals out of jail. By the way, in New York State, Kathy, the very same state judiciary system that went after Donald Trump but is letting all these people out, now she's admitting that it's crooked, that it's wrong. Wait, but Kathy, I thought, remember what Joe Biden actually told me about this? We should never question the judiciary. Our justice system always gets it right. This stuff is not happening. We don't have a problem in America with rogue activist judges. Now Kathy is calling out the rogue activist judges, right? So Kathy, I welcome you to join us, okay? Over here. We will ride at dawn against the judicial insurrection of this country. Peacefully speaking, of course. You're welcome here anytime. But anyways, there you essentially have it. Again, they are being manipulated by Trump either to defend crime or get tougher on crime. Either way, they're creating a better outcome for us because either they're losing elections or they're actually cleaning up the cities. Now, that said, we even got some similar statements from D.C. Mayor Muriel Bowser, who just today actually thanked Trump for helping to stop crime in D.C. They told us, by the way, that D.C. didn't have a crime, 30-year low somehow. And yet the Muriel Bowser, the mayor here, is stating that indeed carjacking, homicide, and robbery are all down thanks to the federal takeover, which we were told was not necessary. And, even some BLM activists said that more police doesn't equal less crime. And yet all of those things are being disproven. And all of the Trump ideas and right-wing ideas are being proven correct, although I would argue there's common sense. Okay, take a listen here to Mayor Bowser.
We greatly appreciate the surge of officers that enhance what MPD has been able to do in this city. The most significant thing that we are highlighting today is the area of crime that was most troubling for us in 2023. Now, we have driven it down over the last years, but I'm going to get my glasses so I can make sure I can see it correctly. But for carjackings, the difference between this period, this 20-day period of this federal surge and last year represents a 87% reduction in carjackings in Washington, D.C. We know that when carjackings go down, when the use of gun goes down, when homicide or robbery go down, neighborhoods feel safer and are safer. So this surge has been important to us for that reason.
Oh, really? So what you're telling me is that despite the rhetoric of Jamie Raskin, Brandon Johnson, J.B. Pritzker, and the National Democrat Party, what the Democrat mayor of D.C. herself is indeed admitting is that the federal takeover of the district has worked. It's been highly successful, right? Simone Sanders told me last week that more police doesn't actually make us safer. We need to rethink how we view public safety in America. We need to deconstruct and decolonize all very basic common sense concepts about how to deter criminals. And it turns out just days later that, nope, according to even the DC mayor, she's the one saying this, not me. The neighborhoods feel safer because crime has gone down. Crime has gone down because there are more law enforcement. Ding, ding, ding. Yeah, as I said, as I so often say these days, it doesn't take 50 pages of social science on social justice and investing in education and the community policing. Let's send social workers to address the mental health crisis and all this garbage to fight back against crime. You know, it's like they always, I would say the difference between the right wing and left wing approach to most issues, but especially crime, is the right wing is like, okay, here's destination A to B. Let's take the GPS and drive a straight line to A to B, right? So that means what? Stop crime by increasing and strengthening, having strong police and having strong punishments for the criminals, which human societies have done for thousands of years. Hey, you don't want crime? De-incentivize crime. Boom, straight line. There you go. What is the left-wing solution? It's like, let's do this and that, and let's invest in this community program and this and that, and then maybe, hopefully, somewhere down the line, crime will go down. Well, it turns out that bullcrap, all this singing kumbaya, all this restorative justice and criminal justice reform and social workers and mental health, none of that stuff, none of that like stupid hippie bullcrap actually works to stop crime. What stops crime? Law enforcement, in de-incentivizing it, right? Putting some degree, yes, of intimidation into the criminals and a sense of order in a community. That is what reduces crime, guys. It's really that simple. And that said, we'll close on this. So apparently today, we have an instance of MSNBC and Joe Scarborough once again doubling down on the idea that Democrats are wrong, actually, right? Here's what Joe Scarborough said, saying, quote, "I believe from a purely political standpoint, Donald Trump on this issue believes he has the upper hand, and I think you are seeing that. Crime is a top issue for voters." Oh, you don't say. You don't say. We've been trying to tell you that. And so is Joe Scarborough trying to warn the Democrat Party, but it would appear that only a handful, small minority of them are actually listening. But here you go.
Trump is leaning on crime, which he just said. Democrats need a better response and fast. So, yeah, tell us more about what you found, because as Ali was reporting back on what Democrats were excited about, what they've done over the past 6 months, one was a Texas redistricting move that didn't do anything. The second was Cory Booker talking for a real long time on the Senate floor, which didn't do anything. Let's talk about crime. And first thing I always ask is, if somebody's coming at me with an issue, how do I, take the issue away from them and reply in a stronger way? And, what's the Democrats' answer to that? If they're not going to be supporting more, like Bill Clinton, 100,000 cops on the street, what's the Democrats' response?
Well, you would think they would sort of use the opportunity to say, look, we're not soft on crime. You're accusing us of being soft on crime. We're not. We're going to call for more police officers. We're going to call for sort of an end to various decriminalization efforts that we've seen across the country since the 2020 George Floyd protests. There was sort of this movement to sort of back off a number of prosecutions. Voters have shown that they do not support that movement and actually have pushed back in Democratic areas like Portland, like New York, like Chicago. So you would think Democrats would sort of attack this issue that way. But I've got to say, you're not seeing a lot of leaders. And I mean, from a purely political standpoint, Donald Trump on this issue believes he has the upper hand. And I think you're seeing that right now. I mean, we see a lot of Democrats talking about how, oh, this is authoritarian, right? But look, voters don't like overtly partisan power grabs, sure. But there's one thing they don't like even more, and that is feeling unsafe in their own neighborhoods. I mean, crime is a top issue for voters, especially in recent years, and it traditionally favors Republicans in their sort of tough on crime response. I mean, you guys have talked about how you think voters in New York believe crime is coming down, but if you look at polling nationwide, that is actually not the case.
Yeah, well, newsflash, I don't exactly think that Joe Scarborough or this Politico reporter right here are exactly sharing my political ideology, but it's basic common sense. It really is. Crime, safety, right? Community safety. These are things that everyone lives in their daily lives. As I so often say, It's a basic human instinct to want to avoid having to be put in fight or flight situations, right? We kind of like naturally yearn to be in secure situations. And yet Democrats are arguing against all of this. And as we showed you today, right? A very small handful of them have figured this out. I think Karen Bass has figured that out, which she usually doesn't really have a brain, but on this issue, at least she knows how to posture on it. I'm not even saying she's really going after crime. She's just trying to make the argument she's tough on crime because guess what? Being tough on crime is a winning position outside of the fringes of 10%, maybe even less than that of American society, right? Kathy Hochul understands the same thing. But many of the other national Democrats, like Jamie Raskin, like Brandon Johnson, like J.B. Pritzker, like probably I would guess Gavin Newsom and many others who Trump's an authoritarian, right? They can't like get out of their own TDS to see the bigger picture here. They're walking into that exact trap. And don't say that people didn't warn you. Even we, people who want you to lose elections, actually warned you it is not smart politics. So let that be said. And I surely hope that we take this crime issue into 2026 because clearly Democrats, after, a couple years toward the end of Biden's presidency, trying to maybe sound more moderate on this, TDS has completely broken them. And that's what it does, right? So now they're mad that crime is being reduced. Actually saw this earlier in the week. They got really mad that the National Guard were cleaning up trash in Washington, D.C. Where's that post, right? You saw stuff like this, right? Trump militarized DC, and now the National Guard is out here picking up garbage. Disgraceful. It's disgraceful, guys. Look at how evil and fascist is that. Can you imagine cleaning up a public park and picking up trash? This is exactly what they do in authoritarian regimes. It's our freedom and right to have trash in a neighborhood. That's what they're arguing. That's actually what they're arguing at this point. They're mad that they're picking up trash. They're making the cities cleaner, okay? TDS is an incredible thing. So that said, guys, let me know your thoughts on all of this in the comment section down below. Be sure to leave a like on this video, subscribe to the channel if you are new, and until next time, God bless and peace.